Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, all sorts of good stuff. And hey, before we get into today's stuff, and there's a lot of stuff to cover today, Mary Poppins just made the mess even messier, moving to the same week as Aquaman, Bumblebee, Alita, Battle Angel, Welcome to Marwen, Holmes and Watson. It's a cluster nut, if you know what I'm talking about. Indiana Jones is now going to release when Indy is going to be 78 or 79 years old. Now it gets pushed back to 2021. Of course, we got Joaquin Phoenix, the Joker movie. It's now official. It's happening. But before we get to any of that, we got a little bit of house cleaning to do. Now, yesterday, of course, we do our question of the day every day. And yesterday we talked, of course, a little bit about this little upcoming movie about Star Wars Episode 9 and the fact that Lando, Billy D. Williams, is coming back as Lando. And our question of the day yesterday was, is Lando going to live or die in Star Wars Episode 9? You guys all sent in your votes, and I'm surprised. I actually voted. I thought he was going to die. I said I think he's going to die, but you guys voted pretty overwhelmingly, 62% to about 38%, that you guys believe that Lando is going to actually live in Star Wars Episode 9. Again, I'm surprised. I voted, I think he was going to die. I thought more of you guys would think he was going to die, but 62% of you guys said that you think he's going to live. By the end of Episode 9, Lando's still going to be alive. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. We got a new question of the day today. Has to do with the Joker stuff, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. So, with all that out of the way, let's dive into the first official topic today. And by the way, how do you get one of your topics or questions as one of the official topics and questions of the day? It's real simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Once again, that's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line and keep your emails, guys, to 90 words or less. All right, here's our first official topic of the day. And it comes to us from Zane Drake, who writes, do you think Spider-Man works without Uncle Ben? And do you think Far From Home needs to reference him? I've heard people argue that Homecoming's Spider-Man has no motivation and doesn't work without him. While I thought it worked in Homecoming because they talked about him in Civil War and the theme of power and responsibility is still there, I admit I will be a bit annoyed if they don't reference him ever in the future. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, so one of the things that we got when we were introduced to Tom Holland's Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War was obviously the lack of an Uncle Ben. The filmmakers decided to forego the whole origin story yet again, because we just saw the origin story twice in the previous 8 years, right? There was no point in covering the origin story again. So basically, this Spider-Man is Uncle Ben-less. Now, for all intents and purposes, there's no Uncle Ben. I mean, we know in the past, because he's got his Aunt May, that there's probably an Uncle Ben in his background. But really, he's had no real presence in this incarnation of Spider-Man. The question, does Spider-Man work without Uncle Ben? Obviously, yes. Obviously, yes. I mean, okay, look, first of all, let's look at just some flat numbers for a second. Okay, so Spider-Man Homecoming gets like an A cinema score. It gets a 92% critic rating, and it scores $880 million at the box office. Clearly, in a pure literal sense, it works. The movie works, clearly. In asking the question, does Spider-Man work without Uncle Ben, you've got to ask yourself this question. Take what you know about the comic books out of it, all right? Take what you know about the comic books out of it for a minute. Just look at this Spider-Man and say, does this Spider-Man work? Forget that you know about this Uncle Ben character who uttered the words, with great power comes great responsibility. Take that out of it for a second. Just for a moment, divorce that from your mind. And just look at what we've gotten from Tom Holland as Spider-Man in 3 films so far. And just ask yourselves, does this character work? I think clearly the answer to that question is yes. It's all subjective, obviously subjective. You may feel differently, that's cool. But I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of people, this Spider-Man works even if there's no Uncle Ben there. As far as the claim that he has no motivation, I disagree. I think Civil War made it pretty clear that this is just a kid who, this is a good kid who just wants to do good things for people. He also kind of idolizes the superheroes. He idolizes the Avengers and things like that. This is clearly a kid who has superpowers, who just wants to help people. And therein is his motivation. He's just a good... What's wrong with the motivation of just being, I'm a good person and therefore I want to do good things with special abilities that I have? The notion that any superhero has to have 18 people in their lives who have died tragically at the hands of their arch nemesis, that works, yes, but it doesn't always have to be the case. And so I honestly think if you forget for a second what you know about the comics and just look at this movie, say, pretend this is the first time you ever saw this character, Spider-Man. Does this character work? Is there some really inherent huge flaw to you? Oh, that you just can't put your finger on. There's some huge deficiency, some huge flaw. I don't think there is. So, I mean, it's going to be up to you guys and each of us as individuals to make that judgment for ourselves. Does Spider-Man work without an Uncle Ben? For me, it's clear. He does. He does. Would I like to see the references to Uncle Ben because we do know about the comic book background? Sure. And I have very little doubt that at some point in the future, that will become a thing. I have very little doubt that sometime in the near future, that will become a thing with this Spider-Man. There will be references to Uncle Ben. I believe that. However, I kind of believe that if they don't, I think the character still works just fine. Would it be better with the Uncle Ben stuff? Yeah, probably. But I still think he works just fine. But what do you guys think about that? Jump down to the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. It's all subjective. All right, let's move on to the next item today. And the next item comes to us from Sam, who writes, "Greetings from Belgium." Well, hello, Sam. I just saw the teaser trailer for the new animated film Wonder Park from Paramount, and I liked it. Though the alternate versions of famous songs is getting really old. But when I looked up who directed it, there was no available information. How can this be? With a teaser already released and the movie coming out in March. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And what Sam's referring to is there's a new trailer that just dropped for this little film called Wonder Park. It's not coming out till 2019, but they dropped the first trailer for it now. I liked it. I liked it. It's not the best trailer of the year, nothing like that, but I thought it was really solid. It captured that sense of awe and wonder and imagination and all that kind of good stuff. And I thought it really worked. I watched it and I'm like, hey, this looks pretty good. I mean, not jumping out of my chair. This looks pretty good. However, one of the things that Sam is pointing out is true. If you go to the IMDb page for Wonder Park, there's no director listed. You've got a bunch of writers, but you have no director listed. Why? How can we be at a place where this movie's coming out in less than a year, it's already far enough along that we've got a trailer for it, and yet there's still like no director listed for it? Well, the reason for that is this. Wonder Park used to have a different name. The name of Wonder Park used to be Amusement Park. And it was being directed by this first-time feature film director named Dylan Brown. Now, Dylan Brown had worked a lot with Pixar. He was an animation director. He was a lead animator on a bunch of Pixar's films, including films like Finding Dory, like Ratatouille, all that kind of stuff. So Paramount gives him a shot to be a first-time director and be actually the main person in the chair and direct this feature film. So then why isn't Dylan Brown's name on the IMDb page as a director? Well, the problem is, it seems like being the big person in the chair might have gone to Dylan's head. Because back in January, Paramount fired him off of the movie because they didn't specify the number. They said a number of female employees came forward with complaints about inappropriate behavior, inappropriate touching, inappropriate advances, all that kind of stuff. Now, Paramount launched their own independent investigation into the claims, and they came to the conclusion that, yep, this guy's got to go. So, now, he has denied it, but Paramount took all the complaints that came in, they did their own investigation, and obviously they came to the conclusion that, yeah, this is sustainable, and they decided to part ways with Dylan Brown and booted him off the movie. So whether this is a case of just the power went to his head all of a sudden, he thought he could do whatever he wanted. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the guy. I don't know the situation. But Paramount did their own investigation. They came to the conclusion that, yeah, we got to let this guy go. Now, Paramount then they changed the name of the movie after that, and they brought in another director. I can't remember the director's name. It's a guy who's never really directed anything significant, but another guy to finish it up. Now, the reason why you probably don't see, now this is where I'm just speculating a bit here, but it seems to make sense. I'm guessing the reason you don't see that guy's name on as the director is because of the Directors Guild of America rules. Like if this guy, Dylan Brown, directed most of the film, and I've got to imagine that by this point, a significant chunk of the movie is probably done. And if Dylan Brown did a significant amount of the work and a significant amount of the direction, then you can't just slap another person's name on as the director. Unless that new director did significantly more work than the original guy. Much like Ron Howard is the director of Star Wars Solo and Lord and Miller aren't, because Ron Howard came in and practically redid the whole thing. That doesn't seem to be the case with Wonder Park. And so right now there's just no director of record. It's like a prickly situation. It's a really odd situation. It's a really unfortunate situation. But anyway, that's why when you go to an IMDb page and you look for the director, there's no director listed, because I think they've still got to sort out and figure out who's going to get directing credit on this. And ultimately, that's going to be decided by the Directors Guild of America. The Directors Guild of America has the power to make that decision. The studio doesn't, all that kind of stuff about who gets the directing credit. That's going to be up to the DGA. And we're probably a ways away from finding out who they're going to give the credit to. But there's a lot of repercussions involved there. So anyway, even in things like kids' animated films, nothing is immune from all the stuff and nonsense that's going on today. Anyway, let's move on to the third topic today. And the third topic today comes to us from Kevin Tran, who writes, I know you've been getting this question a lot, but geez, with the recent news that Disney has decided to move Mary Poppins Returns to December 19th, just 2 days before Aquaman comes out, surely Warner Brothers isn't crazy enough to stick with that December 21st release date, right? Well, yeah, for those of you who have not heard what Kevin is talking about, Mary Poppins, which was supposed to open a week after Aquaman and Bumblebee and all that kind of stuff, supposed to open the following week, has now just moved back to opening on the same week, just 2 days before Aquaman comes out. So Aquaman, as traditional, is opening on the Friday, officially. Mary Poppins is going to open on the Wednesday. So it's coming out now just 2 days. They decided to move it back 2 days before Aquaman, Bumblebee, Alita, Battle Angel, Welcome to Marwen, and Holmes and Watson all open. And just a few days after, just now a couple of days after, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Peter Jackson's Mortal Engines is opening. Now Mary Poppins is in the soup too. I mean, Mary Poppins was already opening pretty close, 1 week after Aquaman and stuff like that. But at least Aquaman, Bumblebee, Alita, Battle Angel, they all had at least 1 week before Mary Poppins opens. Now when they open, Mary Poppins is going to have just opened too. It has turned into a bloody mess. Within a 7-day period, wrap your heads around this. Within a 7-day window, Mortal Engines, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Mary Poppins, Bumblebee, Alita Battle Angel, Aquaman, Welcome to Marwen, and a Will Ferrell comedy, Holmes and Watson, all opening in a 7-day window. It was already bad enough without Mary Poppins in there, and now Mary Poppins is in the soup too. Look, I've been making the argument for a long, long time. I want to see Aquaman succeed because I'm a big, first, James Wan's directing it. I really like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I want this film to succeed. I have been arguing before this move from Mary Poppins that if you're Warner Brothers, the smart decision is to move date and make more money. Now, I have a lot of people, short-sighted people, say to me, but John, it can still do fine in that window. It could still be number one in that week. Yeah. Aquaman could still be number one. Aquaman could open on December 21st and theoretically be the number one movie at the box office. However, if they move that date to October, or if they move that date forward to February, something like that, it might be number one on December 21st, but it'll make more money in October or February. It'll make more. You got too many other people are going to be rushing out to go see Mary Poppins, they're going to want to see Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. They're just going to see, there's a lot of people who are going to want to watch Bumblebee. There's a lot of people who are going to want to see, like, this Mortal Engines novel series is a big popular series, and Peter Jackson's a producer on it. A lot of people are going to want to go see that. There is no way you can convince me with a straight face that Aquaman will make more money right there in the middle of that mess as opposed to in November or October or even February. It would make more money. This isn't a dick measuring contest. It's about who's the smartest. And I think Warner Brothers needs to use the smart move and move dates. Hey, all the rest of you want to go and kill each other over scraps? You go for it. We're going to go make more money, thank you very much. And that's why I really think Aquaman should move dates. And that's why I still believe, you guys have heard me say this, I believe there is a 5% chance, 95% chance it doesn't happen, but I believe there is a 5% chance that next week at Comic-Con, James Wan's going to get up on that stage and say, oh, and did we say this comes out in December? I'm sorry. And then the date fades out of the screen and a new date of November 2018 or October comes out and Comic-Con loses their mind. And just like that, Warner Brothers steals Comic-Con and all the headlines. Boom! Aquaman, October or November, whatever. It would steal all the headlines and it would make a ton more money. But yeah, look, I thought before Mary Poppins made its move, that Aquaman should move. Now that Mary Poppins has moved to within 2 days of it, to me, it's a no-brainer. You gotta move it. For the good of your movie, move it. Let all these other films fight for scraps in the 21st. Let the other 7 movies fight it out. Move to a friendlier date and make more money. Give Aquaman a better chance for success. Because if they don't move it, I cannot help but maybe just a little bit be suspicious that Warner Brothers might be trying to bury it. I mean, come on, be serious. Wouldn't you at least be a little bit suspicious if Warner Brothers just left Aquaman in the middle of that piranha pool with Bumblebee, Mortal Engines, Alita Battle Angel, Mary Poppins, all that other... Wouldn't you at least be a little bit suspicious that Warner Brothers is kind of throwing Aquaman under the bus if they just left it there? Like, some people try to make the argument to me, Warner Brothers should show faith in Aquaman by leaving it exactly where it is. To me, that's the opposite. To me, you're not showing it. To me, you're throwing Aquaman under the bus if you leave it there. I think you're showing a lot more faith in Aquaman and saying, you know what? This movie is good, and this movie has a chance to succeed. So we're going to give it every opportunity to succeed by moving it to another date. By leaving it there, I won't help but be able to be a little bit suspicious that they're just throwing this movie under the bus. And I hope that's not the case. Look, clearly the smart move here is to move the damn thing. So just, Warner Brothers, move this damn thing. All right, anyway, let's move on to the next topic, and this is a doozy. This next one comes to us from Mr. Yazman, who writes, so, Warner Brothers and DC have officially greenlit the Joaquin Phoenix Joker origin movie, which will be directed by Todd Phillips. However, in the articles, Martin Scorsese's name is not mentioned, and I remember hearing that he's going to produce the film. Is Scorsese still attached with the film, or is he no longer involved with it? Okay, so couple things here. The big headline. Let's not bury the headline here. It's official. Now, we've been talking about this Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie for a while, but a lot of us, myself included, were kind of iffy on whether this movie would actually ever happen. Now, apparently, according to the Hollywood Reporter, it's a done deal. They're moving ahead with it. And they're going to start shooting in September. Like in 2.5 months, they're going to start shooting this damn thing. The reports also say this movie could be ready for late 2019. I mean, we're talking about Indiana Jones coming out in 2021, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But they're talking, this thing might be, not only is it happening, it could be shooting in like 2 months, and it could be in theaters by 2019. Absolutely nuts. Now, as far as I understand, Martin Scorsese is absolutely still connected as a producer on the film. There's many producers on a film. Articles don't always list who all the producers are, but all my understanding is from people I've talked to, Scorsese is still absolutely attached as a producer. Todd Phillips is directing this. Here's why I like the idea of Todd Phillips. It's not because of Old School, and it's not because of The Hangover. A little film came out the other year with Jonah Hill and Miles Teller called War Dogs. That looked like an okay kind of throwaway movie, and I loved it. Actually, most people I know who saw War Dogs, it was a surprising movie. the amount of intensity they brought to it with some humor. I thought it was a great kind of semi-biopic, true story, intense thriller, political intrigue, all whodunit mixed with, I mean, seriously, War Dogs is a great movie. And I think it might have been Jonah Hill's best performance under Todd Phillips. I think Todd Phillips directed Jonah Hill to his best performance I've ever seen Jonah. And Jonah Hill's a 2-time Academy Award nominated actor. Miles Teller was awesome in it. And that's the movie. Like some people saying, oh yeah, the guy who did Old School's doing Joker. War Dogs is the movie that gets me excited about Todd Phillips directing this thing. I think it's a pretty cool idea. Anyway, look, I'm going to tell you right now what I said before. I think this is a really exciting development. Joaquin Phoenix is a awesome actor. Everybody knows that. He's a flat out awesome actor, one of the most celebrated actors working in the business today. Everybody knows what you're going to get from a Joaquin Phoenix when he's in a role. And nobody seems to be doubting that Joaquin Phoenix will make an awesome Joker. I think everybody pretty much across the board pretty much believes that. So he's going to be great. But I'll tell you what I said the very first time this story came up. I like this idea, and here's why. As much as I love comic book films and I love the DCEU and I love the MCU and all that kind of stuff, one of my pet peeves has always been the problem with shared cinematic universes is everybody's hands are tied. Every movie you've got to make now has to be consistent with all the other movies being made. Everything's got to be consistent, and basically the storyteller's hands are tied. Now, you can still make some awesome movies. Obviously, the DCU has made a lot of good movies, in my opinion anyway. The MCU's made a lot of, obviously, some really great movies. Absolutely. But I love the idea. Some of my all-time favorite comic book films, or comic books, I should say, are Elseworld stories. Some of the very best comic book stories have been Elseworld stories. Like, that aren't meant to be considered canon or part of the overall continuity, but like Dark Knight. The Dark Knight Returns, maybe the most celebrated comic series and comic short run series of all time. It's an Elseworld story. It's really an Elseworld story. It's a story that's told out of continuity with everything else. You just give so much creative freedom to storytellers when you say, you know what? Don't worry about the rest of the universe. Don't worry about tying your hands to what's consistent with everything else. Tell your own one-shot story, right? And like Red Sun, stuff like, there's so many great, like, Elseworld comic books issues that have been put out over there. Some of the best comic book stories ever have been out of continuity and not to have been considered in continuity. So when they said they might do like a standalone Joker movie that's separate from the DCEU, I gotta admit, I got excited. You mean, so you're gonna get some filmmakers involved here and take the handcuffs off them. Tell whatever story you want. Just make an awesome story and don't worry about all the continuity with the other stuff. It's your own world. It's your own universe, just like every other movie. Go. I think the potential upside is huge. Now, could it be a blithering mess? Absolutely it could. Could it confuse the audience? I think we way underestimate I think we over-exaggerate how easily the audience is confused. Wait a minute, I thought that guy was Joker. That guy is, but it's like a different world. It's a different universe. It's a different telling of the story. Oh, okay. People will be fine. So I'll be honest with you. I wish the MCU would do this. I think the MCU is going to sit back, and I'll tell you what, though. If Warner Brothers does this and it works, I guarantee you're going to see the MCU do the same thing. I guarantee you're going to see the MCU tell some one-off, isolated, separate universe stories. And I'm excited about it. I am. I think this is a cool idea. I think this absolutely can work. Could it be terrible? Yep. No doubt. It could be terrible. However, I just think it's a little bit of sticking your head in the sand if you don't at least acknowledge the potential upside to this. You know, Martin Scorsese producing a film being directed by the guy who did War Dogs, starring Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. You don't see potential upside to that? Of course there's potential upside. Doesn't mean it's going to reach its potential. It could be a blithering mess. Might be awful. But I think the potential upside far outweighs any potential downside. Because look, even if this movie sucks, It was a spin-off film. It was an Elseworlds film. It's isolated. The DCEU doesn't get damaged by it. So, I mean, you got a little bit of an insurance policy there too. Anyway, that's just my point of view. Now, I know there's probably a lot of you guys that think this is a bad idea, and I get it. So that brings us to the question of the day. And our question of the day today is simply this. Is the Joker movie, this standalone Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, a good idea? Real simple. Look in the description of the video. At the very bottom of the video description is a link to where you go and cast your vote. Is this Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix a good idea? I think it is. I think there's a lot of you guys who don't think it is, but I want to hear your voice. Once again, bottom of the video description, you'll find a link to where you go and cast your vote of, is this movie a good idea? Now, I'm going to check out right now because I know a bunch of you guys have probably already seen that link and have already went over to cast your vote. So let me just go see where we're at. We're already over 100 votes, and it's close. Right now, 54% of you are saying yes, it's a good idea. 45.9% of you are saying it's not a good idea. So it's really, really close right now. We'll go over the official results tomorrow. So you guys have tons of time. Get down there, the description of the video, click that link, cast your vote. Simple question. Is this Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie a good idea? I think there's valid arguments to be made on both sides. I lean towards yes, it's a good idea. Some of you lean towards no. Let me know what you guys think. Okay, let's move on to the final emailed topic of the day. And the final emailed in topic of the day comes to us from one of our Patreon supporters, Michael Jessup, who writes, I just read today that Indiana Jones 5 has been pushed to July 9th, 2021, a full year later than it was supposed to come out. 3 years. That's 3 full years from now. Harrison Ford will be 3 days away from his 79th birthday when the film opens. He'll be almost 20 years older than Sean Connery was in The Last Crusade. Aren't they pushing it too much? All right, to me, we've talked about, Indiana Jones 5 for a long time. And to me, I've always said the most staggering figure in all this stuff about Harrison Ford's age and blah, blah, blah has been, think about Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, which is my favorite Indiana Jones movie, by the way. And Sean Connery, his dad, old man Dr. Jones. Harrison's going to be nearly 20 years older than Sean Connery was when that movie came out. Think about that. Harrison Ford is going to be nearly 20 years older by the time Indiana Jones 5 comes out as Sean Connery was when Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade came out. To me, that's the big shaker. Like, it's not the number. It's not 79 years old. Although 79 for an action movie hero is pretty high, granted. But the one that really shakes me is that whole comparison to the Sean Connery age. That's the one that gets me. That one is pretty staggering. So for those of you guys who weren't following it earlier, Indiana Jones 5 was scheduled to come out in the summer of 2020. That's already a ways off. They just brought in a new screenwriter, Jonathan Kasdan, who is Lawrence Kasdan's son. Lawrence Kasdan, of course, wrote the script for the original Indiana Jones. So his son is now working on the sequel script. So then they had to delay it and push off the movie, and now it's coming out like a full year later. Now it's 2021, as was pointed out in the email, 3 years away. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie is coming next year. Indiana Jones 5 is now 3 years away. I gotta tell you guys, I said this before when they announced the delay. I have my doubts that this movie's even going to happen. And it's not even so much because of Harrison Ford's age. It's because Steven Spielberg has about 3 or 4 films that he is developing right now that he is supposed to direct. Right? And I got a feeling, upheaving the schedule like this, I have a feeling either Steven Spielberg's going to walk off this movie at some point, or they're just going to scrap the movie. Now, I don't believe that's the most likely scenario. I think the most likely scenario, if I had to put $5 on it, the movie's probably still going to happen. But I think there's a pretty good chance that either Steven Spielberg walks or they just scrap the whole movie entirely. And again, he did an okay job with Crystal Skull. Harrison Ford did an okay job with Crystal Skull. However, hold on a second. I just want to get the exact year this came out. That was 10 years ago. All right. Harrison Ford, for an older guy, did a pretty good job with Crystal Skull and being able to pull off Indiana Jones and being the action hero and all that kind of stuff. This movie is going to come out 13 years after Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Can he still do it? I don't know. Like, you guys know, I'm always talking about, I love seeing action films with older stars in it. I love seeing that Sylvester Stallone is still able to do what he's doing. I like seeing older action guys showing that they can still be the heroes, that action heroes don't have to be, 21-something-year-olds. I love that. But we're talking about a guy getting close to 80. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think this movie's still going to happen? Do you think it's a good idea that they're doing it? Do you think it was a good move to push it off another year? Again, he's going to be 79 by the time this movie comes out. It's a little bit iffy. But look, Harrison Ford's one of the greatest actors of our generation. I love Harrison Ford. He can do no wrong in my eyes. But I just got to wonder if a movie like Indiana Jones is just maybe getting a little bit late for that. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Jump into the comments section and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with all that stuff out of the way, we got just a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to go over to take some live questions from you guys that you guys have been sending in. So we're going to go over to the first live question. And the first live question today comes to us from Ben Kenobi, who writes, second weekend for Ant-Man, still not showing at AMC Santa Monica. I like the AMC Santa Monica. Does this seem odd to you? It's playing at Century City, but not Santa Monica 7. Okay. Where this is not unusual is this. The Santa Monica 7 isn't all that far from the AMC Century City. AMC Century City is a big major theater. Steven Spielberg goes to watch his movies there, for example. It is not all that uncommon for a theater chain to put a big movie in one theater, and if they've got another theater really close to their big main one, maybe not have it in that one. For example, I live in a neighborhood with 3 AMC theaters all within a block and a half of each other. The big main one is AMC Burbank 16. Then we got these 2 smaller ones right across the street from them, AMC 8 and the AMC 6, all within about a block and a half. It's not uncommon that if they got a big major film playing in one, that maybe one of those 2 smaller ones might not have it. Sometimes they use one of those smaller ones to put in the more indie films or the more more foreign films or something like that. And they just figure, you know what, it'll be best for us. We've got, if people want to see Ant-Man, they can come to this one. Let's put these other movies in this theater here. So it's actually not all that strange and not all that uncommon. If you got theaters that are in relative close, it doesn't have to be within a block and a half, but if they're within relative close proximity, it's not terribly uncommon for that to be the case for movies within the same chain. I still find it a little bit odd. I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp is the #1 movie in the world right now. So yeah, I find it a little bit odd, but honestly, not unprecedented, not all that odd. Let's see. Kyle B writes, my problem with Ant-Man is they made Scott look like a fool. Oh, I disagree with that. I think they did this to prop up the Wasp, and she was already badass enough, so they didn't need to make Scott look like a fool. I disagree. I never at one moment in that film thought they made Scott out to look like a fool. I never felt that at all. I thought the Scott Lang we got in Ant-Man and the Wasp was very consistent with the Scott we got in the first film. And remember, Scott is not a superhero per se. He was a dude who's with a good heart. He's a good man that got caught up in the wrong things, loves his family, loves his daughter. He's actually a master thief. I mean, he's a burglar. He's a burglar. And he was thrust into this superhero life. I mean, that's kind of like out of nowhere, thrust into it. So it's not like we should expect him to be Captain America. And that's part of what makes Scott so endearing as a hero to me. And I'll be honest with you, I never once... Now, I know what you're talking about, because I've seen movies I thought, why are you making this one guy out to look like a fool just to put over the other one? I've seen films that do that. I never thought this was... I thought the Hope character in this movie was incredibly consistent with Hope from the first Ant-Man, and I thought Scott was very consistent as to the Scott in the first Ant-Man as well. And ultimately, Scott saves the day in the new movie. So I gotta say, I've seen the film a couple times now. I gotta disagree with your assessment. Now, that doesn't take away your impression of it. I mean, your experience with the film, it hit you a certain way. I just gotta say that from my perspective, like watching the movie, I never felt like they made Scott out to be a fool. Sometimes Scott was a little foolish, sure, but he was in the first Ant-Man too. It was completely consistent, and to me, that's part of the charm of the character. And ultimately, when it came down to it, he's a badass. I mean, this is the dude who fought and beat Falcon in a fight, right? Or at least fought him to a draw, depending on who you ask. And he did some pretty awesome things in this movie. So, yeah, I just got to say, look, if they did that, I would have a problem with it. But the thing is, I never got that impression watching the movie. Anyway, that was just the way I saw it. Ben Hayusa writes, thoughts on the first Jack Black Goosebumps movie? In my opinion, I thought it was fun. Not a good movie, and some of the CGI looked off. The trailer to the second just dropped today. Doesn't look as fun as the first. I didn't like it, to be honest with you. I did not like it. I remember I was still working at the last place I worked at, and I couldn't make it out to go see Goosebumps. And a team, about 3 or 4 people from my team, sent them to go watch Goosebumps. And they all went to go watch it, and they all came back saying, that movie was terrible. Like, all of them came back saying, that movie was terrible. I'm like, really? I thought it looked kind of cute. So I eventually went and checked it out to myself, and yeah, I agreed with them. I thought it was awful. I didn't like it. But again, all film's subjective. I mean, just because, I'm sure there's lots of movies I like that you wouldn't like. You know what I mean? That's the fun of being film fans. We have difference of opinions. And your opinion on it is no less valid than mine. But yeah, for me, the film didn't work, unfortunately. And I agree with you. I thought the trailers for the first one looked okay. That's why my expectations were a little bit high. But I agree with you. I don't think this trailer for this new one was as good as the trailers for the first one. So it makes me skeptical. I got to agree with you. It makes me a little bit skeptical on that. All right. Ben follows up with, and also, who knows, Todd Phillips' Joker could end up being great. People ought to not judge a movie at first before we see anything in the future. Well, I mean, look, what is fair is to be predictive. Predictive is fair. To say, I think this is going to be great, or I think this is going to be awful, that's fair, right? I think that's totally fair. What is unfair is when you make definitive judgments on a movie before seeing it. Like, that movie sucks. You didn't see the movie. I don't need to see the movie. I know it sucks. See, it sounds like it's a small difference, but it's actually a big difference. Saying, I think this movie looks like it's going to suck is a very, very big difference from saying this movie sucks. I think it's totally fair for people to have predictive opinions about a movie as long as you take those predictions, leave them at the door when you go into the theater, and try to be as objective as you can in watching the film, and just give the film an honest shot. Like, for instance, I said I like to go back. I love when films prove me wrong. I love it. Like, let's take the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, for example, right? The one that the first one they made just a couple years ago. I said for the longest time, this movie I think is going to suck. This is a terrible idea to make this movie. I think this movie is going to suck, blah, blah, blah. That's fair for me to do. If I give the movie an honest shot and leave my predictions at the door, leave my baggage at the door. So that's what I did. I left my baggage at the door, went in to watch the movie, and I came out going, you know what? That was pretty good. that was great. I did the same thing with the recent Power Rangers movie. I said for a year, this is a stupid idea. This movie's going to flop. Well, it did flop. But this is going to be terrible. I think this is going to be awful, blah, blah, blah. And that's fair for me to do. As long as I leave my baggage at the door when I go in to watch the movie. And I went in to watch the recent Power Rangers movie and went, that wasn't bad. That was kind of fun. You know, as long as you're willing to do that, predictive. So I got no problems with people saying, I think this, when talking about the new Joker movie, going, I think this looks like a bad idea. I think this is going to be bad. I think this is going to be terrible. There is nothing wrong with that. That's part of being a film fan. As long as all of us take that baggage and leave it at the door and give the movie a fair shot. And if you give the movie a fair shot and it ends up stinking, fine. And if it gives the movie a fair shot and it turns out impressing you, great. I mean, so that's all it is. So I got no problems with predictive stuff. It's the definitive statements that make me a little bit worried. That's when you get into some nasty ground. All right, I got time for 2 more questions here, guys. Ben Yusuf follows up with, I tried to watch Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter last night, the first time, and couldn't bear to finish the rest. So I went straight to bed. Awful movie. Awful, awful, awful movie. And it could have been a lot of fun. Because you take a movie like Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, I thought that movie was a hell of a lot of fun. I really did. Hell of a lot of fun. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter should have been a lot of fun. The problem is they had no idea what kind of movie they were trying to make. Because one half of the movie, they're trying to be fun, schlocky, satirical, blah, blah, blah. And then the other half of the movie, they're trying to make historical observations about slavery in America. And it's like, this movie has a crisis of identity. And it just ended up falling on its face at every turn. So yeah, I completely agree with you, Ben, about that. And it could have been fun. It could have been a very fun movie like Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies was. But instead, it just kind of fell on its face, so I completely agree. All right, final question of the day. Oh gosh, and a whole bunch of comments came in afterwards. But this is all I got time for today. Don't worry, guys. All of you who have sent in questions after Edgar here, I will take those questions and they will be on tomorrow's companion video. I'll take all these questions you guys have sent in. They will be answered on video on tomorrow morning's companion video before the John Campea Show airs, okay? So don't worry about it. Every one of you who sent in a question, it's going to get answered. Just not on this particular video. It'll be on the next one. All right. Final question of the day comes to us from Edgar Megana, who writes, thoughts on the new Suspiria remake trailer. I love the original and thought the original thoughts on the original Dario one. It's an all-time classic to me. I gotta admit, I like the original one, but it's not... I've got a lot of my friends who that is like you, Edgar, it's on their like shelf of all-time classic movies in that vein, right? I didn't feel the same way. I like it. It's a revolutionary movie. It is. And you can tell how it influenced a lot of horror that came after it. Not that you could specifically say that it's a horror movie in and of itself, but you could see the influence it had on horror filmmakers later on. I'm not feeling the trailers to the new one, to be honest with you. I'm really not. And I know a lot of people love the new trailers. Great. I'm seeing headlines on some of my friends' websites saying, amazing new trailer for the... And that's great. I just got to admit, for me, it doesn't work nearly as much. I don't know why, but it's not quite clicking with me as it is with a lot of people. I like the original. Not as much as you do, obviously, and a lot of my friends do. You're in good company. Most people love that thing, and I just gotta be honest, it doesn't quite work as well for me, but still, it's good. But yeah, the new trailer stuff has not clicked. I don't know why, it just hasn't clicked with me. You know what? I said last one, but I'm going to take one more, just for the hell of it. Aaron Strelinsky writes, you speculated back in May that this could be the summer of Josh Brolin. Infinity War, Deadpool 2, Sicario. Having seen all of them, do you think it was the summer of Brolin or too soon to call? You know what? Here's the thing, though. It's difficult. If you just want to look at box office results for the movies that he did, I mean, Deadpool 2 made huge amounts of money. Infinity War clearly made huge amounts of money. But it's tricky, and I think I might have said this back in May as well. It's tricky to call it the summer of Brolin when Brolin isn't even really the main guy in any of those movies. Now, you can make an argument that Infinity War is about Thanos, but you're getting a CGI representation of Josh Brolin there, right? So it's not even really Brolin. I mean, look, that's contradictory to me. Like, in fact, I nominated Brolin for The Filthy for Best Lead Actor. But from a perceptive point of view, it's difficult to call Infinity War Josh Brolin's movie. It's very difficult to do that. Much like you can say Civil War is Chris Evans' movie. He's clearly the lead character and the lead actor, but it's difficult to do that for Josh Brolin because he's a CGI representation. He's not the main guy, obviously, in Deadpool 2. And you can make the argument that the main guy in the Sicario movies is Benicio del Toro, not Brolin. So it's tricky. Now, I'm not crap talking Josh Brolin at all. I love Josh Brolin. I'm just saying it is tricky to call it the summer of Brolin when, from a perceptive argument point of view, you might be able to say he's not even the main guy in any of the three movies. So it's tricky. Box office point of view, clearly. Otherwise, it's tricky. It's a tricky one to do. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you call this the summer of Brolin? understanding his role in Infinity War, Deadpool 2, Sicario, Day of the Soldado. Do you think it's safe to say, yep, this is the summer of Brolin? Let me know what you guys think. Jump down in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today, for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Hey, listen, guys, I want to remind you something. 1 week from today, I'm leaving for Comic-Con. I know a bunch of you guys will be at Comic-Con too, and I just want to remind you that I am doing a panel. Comic-Con was nice enough to invite me back. I'm doing my panel again, Masters of the Web this year, and this year we're specifically talking about something you guys ask me about all the time. Starting and growing your own YouTube fandom channel. And I've got a terrific panel here. Because if you're going to do it about fandom, about movies and TV, who better to talk about that angle than Scott Mantz, the president of the Los Angeles Film Critics Society, Online Film Critics Society. He deals with people who do online film criticism all the time. He's great for that. We got my friend Dorina, who not only works at Google, so she's got this great perspective of the internet as a whole, but she herself started her own YouTube channel just this past year. So she's going to be able to talk to you from a point of view of the frustrations and roadblocks you face as a new YouTuber. And we've got, what better guy to get into than one of the guiding hands who guided a YouTube channel to over 17 million subscribers. My buddy John Green, he's the executive vice president over at Fine Brothers. So he knows, and he's in charge of social over there. So he's going to be able to talk to about, number one, some of the trends that they helped them grow to over 17 million subscribers, but also he's going to be talk about being able to interact with your viewers and your listeners as well, because he's in charge of social over there as well. So I think we've got a terrific panel with some great people bringing some really unique perspectives, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you join us. It's on the Friday morning of Comic-Con in the Neil Morgan Auditorium at the San Diego Central Library, right beside Petco Park there, right beside the Convention Center. I'm very excited about it this year. Make sure you guys come and join us. And hey guys, one last thought. If you're somebody who enjoys my programming, do me a favor. Head on over to www.patreon.com/John Campea and just get the information about what does it mean to be a Patreon supporter of the John Campea channel. Also, how does being a Patreon supporter keep my shows on the air? And of course, what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter as well. Like a lot of you guys asked me about audio-only versions of the podcast. That's a benefit to our Patreon supporters. Go check that out, and maybe you'll decide to become a Patreon supporter too. If you do, that would be awesome. All right, guys, that wraps it up for me for today. Don't forget to vote on our question of the day. Is the new Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie a good idea? Go register your vote now. My name's John Campea. Thanks a lot for joining me, guys. And until our little afternoon show open mic, bye-bye.